Hello and welcome back to another round of the RRacing League here on MotoGP 20. Now this round is at Jerez, as you can see in the background. So without any further ado then, let's head into qualifying and hopefully we can try and finally get a good grid position. So here we are then for our qualifying lap here at Jerez. Now I actually was feeling pretty good at this circuit, not going to lie, so hopefully we should be able to get a pretty decent lap here. So as you can see, we've just done a new personal best, which actually put us the third, which is much better than we have been the rest of the season. But this is the fastest qualifying lap from me of the session. Currently C5, my teammate, on pole position as we chuck it in to Mitchell in turn 2. Sliding that rear tyre, you can see we're very marginal on fuel, 1.2 laps left of fuel, but of course you want to do that in qualifying, you want to be quite on the limit. The rear tyre is extremely warm, but as we come to the end of the first sector, actually almost 3/10 underneath C5's time in the first sector. So we're looking, the Petronas boys are looking pretty good in this one, but we're looking on course for pole position at this point in time. So down the straight towards the formerly dry sack, but now the Danny Pedrosa corner. We break just between those two DHL boards. We're now 29 thousandths underneath, so we actually lost a lot of time, but actually we're now down to fourth because Vazels has actually gone quicker. So Vazels is now the guy on pole position, so that's why the gap has come down so much, because there's a new fastest lap. We slide quite a lot through that corner. You can see the rear tyre is extremely hot through the Aspar corner, then trying to stay as tight as we can, sliding that rear end. I had a new setup on to try and give myself a little bit more rear grip as well for this race as we chuck it into Angel Nieto. We've actually gone a little bit wide through there, but we'll have to see. We're 76 thousandths an hour away from Vazel's time, so we're not on course for pole position anymore, but still that would be fantastic to try and get second position on the grid, because usually I start quite far down. I don't think I've started above the second row yet. Obviously we're still on the second row, the front of the second row, even if we don't do this. So down towards the final turn, we actually didn't do that high speed section that great. We had to lift a little bit, where ideally probably want to keep it quite flat, but out of the Jorge Lorenzo corner, then up towards the line. What is this time going to be here as we go over the line? 38.6, second position provisionally, which would be a fantastic time position, 1/10 away from Vazel's time. But at the end of the session then, it ended up being fourth position once again. C5 actually improved this time, and so did Desmo Danny, so they both got ahead of me there. So in the end, we ended up fourth position on the grid, which is still a very good starting position for myself, considering usually I'm a bit further behind, in front of one of the MV Augustas, who are the team we're battling in the team's championship, myself and C5 of course. So that is very good. So then let's head into the race, and hopefully we can try and make the most of this good starting position. So here we are then on the grid at Jerez, starting fourth position. We've got to try and capitalise on this. We've not had the best season so far, still chasing our first podium. We've not even had one of those yet. C5 has had a win as well, so we need to try and pull our weight in the team's championship. But waiting for the lights to go out here at Jerez. Lights out and away we go. We've got a pretty decent start actually. We've got a really good start. C5 is not. We go to the outside, 3-4 wide almost as we go down towards the first corner. Around the outside we go, up the inside, but go both the MV Augustas are up to third place. Contact with C5, back down to fourth place as Vazels gets back in front as we go down towards the Michelin corner. Then Vazels on the inside, contact with Danny, he's down, and I think he's took both the MV Augustas out with him. So we're down to second position now as Karma managed to slip through in that kind. C5 has gone down as well, so Karma actually running second in the championship at this point behind C5. I need to do my teammate a bit of a solid here and try and get past him as we go through the Sita Pons corner. Karma's actually messed up the entry a little bit there as we've gained quite a lot through there. He's kind of cut the inside and he lost a bit of time. We're in the slipstream now as we go down the straight towards the Danny Pedrosa corner. He goes a little bit defensive. We go further to the inside on the brakes. Up the inside we go, but we've overshot the corner. We forced him wide with us, so we take the lead. But Vladimir Jerez come through. But we're straight back past him on the power, up into the lead of the race then. So we've gone from fourth to first on this first lap, but it's been a chaotic first lap. Vazel's taking out the two MV Augustas by the looks of it on the inside there. And then, of course, obviously C5 having a crash. I think he crashed with KG, who was obviously the rider we crashed with in the previous race. But maybe he's got a bit of a vendetta against us Petronas riders. But we've got a 4/10 lead currently ahead of Vlad. So that is very good to have. We're trying to build out this gap as much as we can because we knew that Karma was going to be a big threat. Karma's obviously always so fast. I mean, so is Vlad. But Karma usually has that extra little bit over quite a lot of the riders. So I know he needs to get past him, and it's nice to have someone between us, that's for sure, because if he was all over the back of me, that would not be good then. So as we come out the last corner, looking behind us to see what the gap is, as we come over the line, what is the gap going to be? 4/10 of a second, so almost half a second. We need to try and build this out more if we can. 10 lots of fuel to go as well, so we've been pretty careful with the fuel so far. But we break for the Danny Pedrosa corner on the second lap. Karma's now behind us, 8 tenths behind. There's a crash behind. Jäger's gone down. Karma's gone down. And I believe Jäger just went straight to the side of Karma, which has definitely made our race easier. So now, at the end of this lap, we're in the lead still, of course. But it's now Darius in second position, 1.3 seconds behind. Fastest lap of the race for myself as well, 39.8 there, which is a pretty decent pace for this track. So we come towards the line again on the end of the third lap. Then another fastest lap, 39.7, but 1.1 seconds in front of Darius now, which means obviously he went faster with a 38.5. And then once again coming over the line now at the start of the fifth lap, end of the fourth lap, 1.3 seconds in front, 38.6 on that lap. So we're kind of just going backwards and forwards. Vazel's did a 39.2 there as well, further down the order, 39.5 on that lap. We're now 1.4 seconds in front. So I'm actually pulling out the gap again a little bit here, around halfway through the race on lap 6. But as we come to the end of lap 6 then, what is the gap on this lap? 39.9, 1 second. So now Darius starts to close us down a little bit. We're going a little bit slower at this point of the race. But at the end of the 7th lap, you can hear that engine being much closer from Darius. So he's definitely made some inroads on us. What is it now? Half a second. He does fastest lap of the race. So with 5 laps to go, Darius is closing up to us, and he's got the pace. As we come to the end of the 8th lap, we're coming through the high-speed section. You can hear that triumph behind us, and we're looking behind. He's right there as we go down towards the Jorge Lorenzo corner. Up the inside goes Darius. He's going for the lead of the race. He gets through. We're on the power as early as we can. We're trying to sit on the bike. We've gone back round the outside. We're back up into the lead of the Spanish GP here, but Darius is all over the back of us now. We've got to be careful as we start the 9th lap of the race, 67 thousandths in front. He does another fastest lap of the race, 39.1, but this is going to be tense. Obviously, he's just made a move, but as we start the next lap now, so we actually managed to keep in front of him this time, 3 tenths of a second, so we've actually put a bit more time back into him again as we start the 10th lap of 12. But really, he had some fantastic pace. Starting the penultimate lap of the race now, half a second. So we actually started to extend that gap again a little bit. Obviously not a massive amount. Karma doing the fastest lap of 39.0, a little bit further behind. But yeah, we've managed to put a little bit of time into Darius here. Nothing major, but obviously it's much better than him actually being past us. So he was literally right behind us then for that entire stint of the race. Of course, he caught up to about half a second. He caught right up to us, actually made a little pass. We've got round the outside. We've put about half a second back into him. But you can see it's now only 2 tenths in this sector. So it was to-ing and fro-ing throughout the lap. So it wasn't like I was comfortable. I was like, oh, now I've got half a second behind. Like, there were probably sectors on that lap where he was closer than that. But as we go down towards the Danny Pedrosa corner, I was looking behind me to see how close he was. And I know that far back you can't make the move. So that's an important thing. You don't have to go defensive. Obviously, that can cost you a lot of time, as Paolo Spagro demonstrated quite well in the Styrian GP, costing him the victory, of course, by going defensive when he was far enough in front where he couldn't be passed anyway. So as we're coming to the end, well, we're about halfway round this penultimate lap, and you can hear that Darius is still there. He's not giving up, of course. Obviously, he got close enough to make that move once. This was probably my weakest sector, that series of right-handers. I just couldn't really carry the flow through there. He's only 2 tenths behind now, so of course, remember, he started half a second behind us on this lap, so he's taken 3 tenths out of us. He's more than half the gap as we go through Alex Crivier then, trying to just carry the corner speed, but you can hear behind that he can get on the power just a bit more, but that time we really nailed the penultimate turn down towards the Jorge Lorenzo corner. He's not close enough to go for a move, so we're about to come out there. Oh, a bit of contact there actually on the exit of the corner, so he looks up the inside, a little bit of contact there. But as we come up towards the line then to start the final lap of the race, 39.9. So even at this point, we're still lapping sub 1 minute 40, which is a fantastic pace to have at this track in the Moto 2 class, to be fair. So as we go down towards turn 2 now, trying to just break as late as possible without going in too hot, because of course it's the last lap. He's going to be trying in different places. Seafire doing 39.0, so he's pretty far behind us though if he's only just crossing the line. Not a good race, unfortunately, for my teammate Seafire. You never like to see it, but we're only 1 tenth in front of Darius though, so Darius is definitely getting close as we go through the Cito Ponds corner. I know here I needed to get a perfect exit, although we've just spun up a lot, so we really didn't, and he's all over the back of us. In fact, he went on the curb a little bit though as we go down towards the Danny Pedrosa corner. He's going for the inside on the brakes around the outside as Rishi started talking as well, race direction at that same time, but we managed to outbrake Darius. He looked for a little move down into Danny Pedrosa corner, can't blame him. But once again, not going defensive actually helped me out because I just managed to outbrake him down the outside and there was nothing he could do. If I'd obviously gone defensive, I probably would have gone in a little bit hot and he would have got underneath me. We slide that rear tyre once again through the left-hander and he's still all over the back of us. So this has been an extremely, extremely difficult race so far because Darius has been right there the whole way through, 2 tenths of a second. Coming up towards the sector where I know I'm weak, and I'm thinking that Darius is definitely going to be going for a move. So throughout this Crivier then, we've got to try and keep the power open as we go through Ferrari now down towards Hoy Lorenzo corner. This time I know I kind of do have to go a little bit defensive, but we just go really deep in on the brakes, and we've run a little bit wide, but Darius behind crashes, so Darius tries to outbrake us, but he goes a little too late and he loses the front. So we come up towards the line. It's going to be a win here in Jerez. We finally get our first podium and we open our account with a top step. Fantastic race, and the qualifying really came in clutch. I've been starting too far down in these races, so it is nice to see that the better qualifying position starting at the head of the second row really helped us out there. So then, if we look at the final results for this race, they're actually slightly different than you will see on the screen. I might put a screenshot quickly up of what the final results were, just to kind of explain what happened. There were penalties applied for incidents throughout the race by the race director, so as a race director you can actually just apply penalties to the results, but these were then overturned, so they were reverted back to what they should have been. So obviously, as you can see, it says Darius still came second, even though he got passed by Vazel's, because Vazel's got given a penalty initially, but that's been overturned. So obviously my win still stands because I got no penalties or anything like that. I won on track. But Vazel's actually ended up in second place, and Darius in third, Karma in fourth, X1 ended up in fifth, sixth place for Jäger, seventh for Mystic Prune, eighth for Seafire. So he did not have a very good race, unfortunately, but hopefully he'll be able to fight back in the next one, because we need those good constructors points, and he was also leading the championship before. Desmond Danny ended up 9th and KG in 10th. So most of the results are fairly similar. It's just penalties for Vazel's and for Jäger were overturned. They were given penalty points instead of in race penalties, I believe, was what happened. So that is why you can see that it looks a little bit different on this final results screen. If we look at the actual Riders' Championship now, C5 continues to lead the Riders' Championship with 69 points, ahead of Karma in second with 66. So very close at the top. 63 for Darius in third. I now move up to fourth in the championship on account of that victory with 62 points. So we're only 7 points back off the championship lead now. So even though I kind of considered that I hadn't had a very good season, it's been very consistent. If you see a fifth, a fourth, and a first. So we've been in the top 5 in every single race so far, which is fantastic to see. Vazel's behind, obviously he came second in that race, 60 points, so we just leaped ahead of him, but he's still extremely close to us. Desmo Danny with 50 points, so again, not too far behind. So us top 6 are all extremely close, like there's basically nothing to separate us at all. So 4 of the top 6 have actually had victories, but everybody in the top 6 has had podiums, but nobody outside the top 6 has actually had a podium at this point, so quite interesting there. But very close, only 19 points separating us top 6. It's extremely close, but if you get rid of Danny, obviously that's only 9 points, so he's a little bit further behind Chris, but he's still definitely within a good shot. Sloppy Warlock on the other Sky VR46 bike in 7th place with 20 points. Mystic Prune in 8th with 19. X1 in 9th with 18. Blake has 16 points, same with Jäger as well. Obviously they've both only done 2 races. KG now done 2 races as well. It's got 13 points. Something I actually forgot to mention in this episode, although I did mention it in the previous one. KG runs in first person, same with John and Ninja, so they both do really good jobs for playing in first person. So John and Ninja then in 13th place with 9 points. So if we move on to the Teams Championship then, obviously myself and Seafire actually got quite a nice little lead now. A pretty good result. We've both had a victory, so that's definitely helping us out. We're ahead of the MV Augusta team in 2nd position. But really, constructors, the Teams Championship for now is definitely just between us and the MV Augusta, basically because those teams are the only 2 that have had people at every single race and people consistently at the front. Obviously, the Sky VR46 team with Chris and Sloppy. Sloppy hasn't been at most of the races, and obviously he wasn't quite as high up as Chris as well, even when he was here. Apex hasn't been to any of the races yet, so Karma has been the only one bringing home the points for that team. So that's why there's such a big gap. Blake and X1, they've been at some races, not at others. I think also Mystic Prune, I think some of his points must be going towards... Oh no, he's in a team with KG apparently at the bottom, I've just seen, so I didn't realise that. I thought Mystic Prune was in the KTM team. Jäger and Jono, of course, again, those 2 have both missed races, obviously same with KG and Mystic, so that's why there's such a big gap. But the top 2, obviously, we've had 2 riders at the front in all the races so far, so that's why we've got like a lot more points than everybody else, and it's really between us and the constructors. But that's where I'll end off this video then, so I hope you guys have enjoyed that one. Hope you enjoyed the rest of your day. Hope you're all staying safe, and I shall see you in the next one.